So nice to know you're here with us on the program Governance and Development Conversation, proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. And I'm Sonny Duke Okosu, regular anchor on the program. In today's show, our focus will be on the Mantra project, and then on the flip side, we'll also be looking at the civil society perspectives of Governor Monday, Okpebholo's 100 days in office. Joining me in the studio to help you make sense of our package for today is the Deputy Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, Comrade Leo Atakpo. Comrade, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get started by looking at the Matra project, which of course is...
Casa project.
Yes, the Casa project, which is a major muscle, if I may put that word, behind this program. What is this all about?
The civil society advocacy in support of anti-corruption reforms in Nigeria project is a subsect of the rule of law in anti-corruption program being implemented by International IDEA with funding from European Union. The whole idea of the Casa project is to also join forces with other groups working under the ROLAC project to strengthen anti-corruption reforms across the country, particularly at the national level for us in Anij and then here in Edo State. The project seeks to, again, bring stakeholders together, government, civil society, young people, women, to strengthen their understanding of some governance efforts, and then see how they can also engage, enlarge their voices to engage with the government, to bring about greater development for the common good of all citizens.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Since its inception, what would you say are the major gains in terms of impact in strengthening institutions against the menace of corruption? Because they say in Nigeria, corruption is endemic.
Oh yes. At the moment, we are looking at we are carrying out a research, trying to do some assessment of the anti-corruption units in some federal ministries, departments, and agencies, NDAs, working closely with the ICPC to have some understanding of what it's been, within the public sector, and then again to proffer some recommendation on how to strengthen, the transparency and accountability in government. That is ongoing because the project is relatively new, it's relatively young. We are also hoping that we should be able, working with various government agencies, to put in place some policies, some laws that will help, to strengthen anti-corruption. Already we are engaging various government officials, various government agencies, in this direction. So we hope that at the end of the project in 1 year, we should be able to give better results, in this direction. We know that
what would you say?
Corruption is a humongous issue in this country.
Yeah.
We know it is, like the elephant. You take it from one side,
it comes out on the other side.
Honestly,
yeah.
You cannot, win that war overnight. But we must be consistent. That's what we're doing at Anij. We are being consistent and very focused, in doing the things we do.
We've seen over the years, government institutions generally are very uncooperative in the fight against corruption, particularly when we have the civil society trying to engage. Most times, the intentions of the civil society, it's on the positive side, just to have institutions of government have a strengthened capacity to fight corruption, as it were. What do you make of that as a challenge in this fight against corruption?
Yeah, that is why also the Casa project is in place to help strengthen the government institutions. That's why we are carrying out the assessment of the actors, how they have fared over time, since they were put in place, and then to see areas, that we can actually strengthen. So after the assessment, we're also going to move in to work with the ICPC, to see how we can strengthen those units of government. It is something that might interest you to know that the people you see every day in the society are the same people you find in government offices. You cannot isolate them, So it's about, changing our perceptions, changing our attitudes, changing the way we do things, both in our private lives and in public life. So a combination of all of that. It has to be holistic, it has to be multifaceted, everybody, doing their own bit to ensure that this issue we have all identified as a major hindrance to development, is properly addressed, is properly tackled and addressed. Because again, the institutions, you cannot isolate them from the larger society. So they also, they are also penetrated, they are also infiltrated by the same people you encounter every day, by the same people you meet every day. So the effort has to be, sustained. It has to be continuous before we'll be able to achieve the desired results. It's a long way to go, yeah, but we should continue.
Is 1 year enough to drive this project? Because you mentioned that this is within a 1 year period. And what is the spread of civil society involvement in the Casa project?
For us in Edo State, we are working with practically the who is who in the civil society in Edo State. And then at the national level, we also have our comrades at the national level that we are working with. We are also engaging with the National Assembly. We are also engaging the Federal Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, to ensure that some of these policies that we're working towards, are realized. The space is wide enough, to accommodate even the media. In fact, that is why we are doing this with ITV, so that you can also be taking the message, down to the people, down to the grassroots, so that the day will come and mobilize people for action. The awareness will be there. It will not be a new topic, it will not be a new subject to even the ordinary citizen.
If you just join us, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Governance and Development Conversation, proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll take the conversation to the next level. Don't go away, please stay. The euphoria about the 100 days in office celebration of Governor Monday Okpebholo is still very much around. And there have been different perspectives to the celebration. For the ordinary man on the street, the market woman, the barbers, the artisans, the academicians, and of course the politicians. You should always expect that when politicians give views and perspectives on any matter, it will always be from their political lineage, their political perspectives. Well, in our conversation today, it's not going to be from that perspective at all. We're going to be looking at it from a very objective, robust, and broad-based perspective on Governor Okpebholo's 100 days in office, looking at what has been done right, and then what has been done wrong, and then what can be done to create that nexus between what has been done right and what has been done wrong, so we can have more of the rights, in other words, the right predominant against the wrongs. And so I'd like to welcome again Comrade Leo Atakbo, our guest on the program for today. 100 days, it's perhaps for some people not enough to measure the impact of governance, particularly for a fresh government. But for some people, it should be a foundation on the direction in which the government is going. In your perspective as a civil society activist, what are your thoughts on 100 days in office of Governor Okpebholo so far?
Well, it's a mixed grill from my own take. The 100 days has been, well, some progress has been made. We can talk of some positives. We can also know that there could also be some challenges along the way. I'm also one of those persons who believe that 100 days is not enough, to really assess an individual or a government. But again, it also, as you pointed, gives a little bit of direction as to how the government will fare, in the days, or what people should expect from the government. I also know that since the governor was sworn in, there have been, those litigation issues going on in the courts, and all of those, ordinarily have some distractions that it causes any government that, undergoes, that's involved or that's enmeshed in such legal tussles. But that said, I think for us in civil society, one of the gains we could point to as soon as Okpebholo became governor of Edo State is the fact that there was a skirmish, an incident that occurred between a foremost comrade, in this state, Comrade Kaduna Eboigbodin, with the police, that led to the death of Eboigbodin. And we reached out to the governor somehow, and the governor, intervened in that incident, because Eboigbodin is not just an ordinary comrade, a former chairman of Nigerian Labour Congress in this state, and then he also led the local government union, Nolge. He was also the chair of Gani Fawemi movement for good governance in Edo State here, that was established in an secretariat. And as soon as we got the wind of that, our executive director, David Ugolo, swung into action and ensured that there was justice. But that would not have happened, without the cooperation, the understanding showed by Governor Okpebholo. So to that extent, civil society, believe that he is also a governor that have also that listening ear, because there are some governors also that such could happen in their domain and they may not give the desired attention. But for us, we could also say that that was kudos to the governor. He did what was expected of him. And he also, yes, took some further steps to ensure that there was compensation to the family. The daughter was also offered employment and all of that. And then, of course, the police hierarchy in the state, were also brought into the fray, and they were also able to assuage, the family of Kaduna Eboigbodin. So to that extent, we could say that, yes, the governor has a listening ear of civil society. That also said, in the course of the celebrations, we have also been able to pick some points, of what the government has done this past 100 days. One, you could see that the governor is interested in road construction. He's taking much interest in that. A few, projects are underway already, and they are not hiding their interest about that. There are even some roads that was started by the previous administration that this current government is continuing. So for the first time, we're also seeing, some kind of continuity, unlike in previous administration where, you say that, because it was the other governor that awarded that contract, then you do away with it. But we see some of those roads, that the governor is continuing. I think that is commendable. Continuity in government is recommended, for us to have good governance. it's not for government to abandon what their predecessors have started, good projects that predecessors have started. It is important that those projects are finished, to logical conclusion. And then I also saw that there was this launching of a 5-point agenda where they talked about, focus on agriculture, focus on, some basic, necessities of life for the citizens, agriculture, security, health, and, the SHINE project, the SHINE agenda, they dub it. That in itself is good. It shows that, okay, there's a focus. You have 5-point agenda that on the basis of which you can begin to measure, performance of the governor in subsequent, periods. Maybe in another 1 year, in another, 2 years, we can come around again to say, how has the governor performed? How has the governor fared? But on the flip side, I think we also have seen some kind of upsurge in some kind of characters. People that were hitherto were put at bay in the streets. They find their way now back into the system. Some of them are involved in revenue collection and all of that. So for us in civil society, we would like to perhaps think that the governor ought to have also continued that, electronic, system of revenue collection, because that, in itself will take away the trouble of getting some kind of persons that cause problem, not only to the society, but also to the government, away from the streets. So it will be important that the governor takes a closer look at that to ensure that, people are allowed to move freely, people are allowed to do their businesses without any undue harassment, in the state. So to that extent, I think that the government need to perhaps retweak, that aspect of what they have started.
Fantastic. I know that ANECH has been at the forefront of helping government across the country to strengthen their efforts in the fight against corruption, particularly with the enactment of the public procurement law, as it were. How would you rate this government in that direction? Because that's a key instrument in the fight against corruption. We heard of some, projects running into billions of naira that have been awarded. Can we say for sure that these projects went through the statutory procedures for the awards of such contracts?
You are right to point the fact that issues of corruption are centered around procurement. But we are also happy to have been part of the enactment of the public procurement law here in Edo State, and there is an agency of public procurement, and any individual that breaches that law, could face the appropriate sanction in due time. I will not be able to assess this present government's compliance with the law, given the shortness of time. But I know that with time, we should be able to do some kind of assessment around, the level of compliance with the public procurement law here in Edo State. But that said, I think it is important, to emphasize that the Okpebholo administration, has not also hidden its opposition to corruption. He has made some public statements, some public, taking some action that turns, towards that direction, that he is of zero tolerance, to corruption. Governor Okpebholo, from his comments, from his body language, from his disposition, is committed to transparency and accountability to certain, to certain level that one can point to as of today. Some measures have been taken thus far. As soon as they came into office, they set up a committee to review the activities of previous government. I do not know whatever it is, but the committee, we are told, has completed its assignment, and they have submitted also their report. Now, that in itself is indicative, of a government that is interested, in fighting corruption. Now, there were also some appointees of his administration that he said have to also be investigated, as a result of what was alleged or what was perceived to be misconduct on their part. Those investigations, I believe, they are ongoing, and then at the end of the day, perhaps the public will understand a little more better what transpired. But, those actions are indicative of a government that is really interested, in curbing corruption as much as possible. And so at the end of the day, we should be able to say, okay, yeah, this is what has happened, this is what I do not have the full details of the report submitted by the committee. We also do not have the details of what has transpired with the investigations that is going on with the two public officials that were placed on suspension. But we also hope that at the end of the day, the public should be informed, because images of people are at stake in that. So it would be good that at the end of the day, those people should be properly informed what's transpired.
Okay. From the civil society perspective, post 100 days in office, what would be your areas of prioritization for Governor Okpebholo?
Yeah. For us here in Edo, I think one of the things that Edo people want to see is improvement in infrastructure, in the area of roads, area of electricity. The immediate past government, they did a whole lot of work around electricity, improving electricity supply in the state. We expect that Governor Okpebholo should build on that. The area of roads and other infrastructure, particularly, areas that have not, been touched by previous administration. We also expect that the government will do a whole lot in that direction. But again, we also know that procurement, as you pointed earlier, is the hub. All of these revolve around procurement. And for government to be able to attend to the needs of the people, for government to be able to take development to the people, it is important that, government resources are properly guarded in such a way that there are no leakages. And that's where the issue of transparency, that's where the issue of accountability comes in. So we want to work, we want to engage with the government, to see how there should be a strengthening of the public procurement system in the state. Okay. We want to also see how, there should be some kind of open governance, open government partnership. We want to see how citizens, civil society, citizens, can engage with the government, in such a way that there's this kind of participation of the public, of the ordinary Edo people, okay, in government. So through town hall, meetings where the governor himself will come, and speak with the people, listen to them, hear their concerns, and then act on recommendations that you hear from them. We also want to see some kind of in place the freedom of information law that will enable Edo people to be able to access public information, so that they can also be able to ask the right questions, so that government will also be in position to provide the right answers to those questions. Because if that is not happening, it will lead to, that could create a situation of opacity. And when there is opacity in government, that is where all kinds of things happen. So we want to encourage Governor Okpebholo and his team to put in place structures that will guarantee openness, transparency, and accountability in government. There's nothing wrong if the governor quarterly come to brief Edo people. This is how we have performed. This is what we have done. This is the next direction we are going, in terms of governance. And then feel the pulse of the people. And that way, that kind of feedback mechanism, the governor should put all of that in place. Okay. And civil society also are in position to also support government to do all of that. Because
right.
we know that government alone cannot do it
Absolutely,
all alone.
absolutely. I mean, just a beautiful way to tear out our conversation today on governance and development conversation. Government alone can't do it alone. Government needs the support of you and I, the civil society, the market, women, the youths, the leaders. Everyone has a role to play because government is about everybody's business. If you will play that leading role somewhere along the line, I'm sure we'll have a better society, better governance that is really meeting the yearnings and aspirations of the people. Leo Atakbo, thank you for coming on the program. And that's our package today, but just in case you want to contribute to the program, we'll have all our feedback channels on the screen, the email address, anagenigeria@gmail.com. You can message us on the WhatsApp number on the screen. On Facebook, it is facebook.com, anagenigeria. On Twitter is at anagenigeria. That's that's now X actually. You can watch this video on Nigeria 9347. Please share a comment there or respond and react to them in our subsequent presentation. And that's it on Governance and Development Conversation, courtesy African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. On behalf of the crew members, I'm Sonny Jikokoson. Thanking you for staying with us. Have a beautiful day ahead. Bye for now.